I'm not gonna lie, I did not know how to feel at first when it comes to Date Alive Season 3. I did not have the most positive outlook going in, and boy do I feel stupid for it, because it would have to be my anime of the season, somehow trumping my favorite show this season, Kaguya-sama. The reason why it is a simple concept of story flow. When you've reached a point of climax, generally something is gained from it. The main characters learn, or get closer, or turn to save the hero once and for all, and grow as an individual. Date Alive Season 3 has that important concept to pay off. Sure, the narrative takes a little too much time to get properly started, but quite frankly, I'm willing to forgive it, i.e. the Natsume arc, on the evidence that these past few seasons, or rather episodes, have been long-term planning for episode 12. Wouldn't make sense to shoehorn this many girls into a harem, but DxD did it, and it was somewhat serviceable of a show. Or how Origami's arc is compelling. But I won't harp on that too long, because my bias will get in the way. Basically, the bias I have towards her arc is follows. First, it is her silver hair and aloof nature. Second, her personal revenge arc strikes a personal narrative chord. For obvious reasons, if you've ever been in my Discord server or that of certain friends. This is actually where my bias comes into a symbiotic form of payoff. The fact that this story has that sort of character trope that has been played on and off for quite some time, only to subvert our expectations when we first view the aspect of the story by the greatest poetic irony imaginable. The fact that her entire vengeance crusade is an ultimate, infinite loop of self-fulfilling prophecy that is rarely explored in this sort of context. It is utterly ironic to the point of a sanguine, macabre form of beautiful Baroque poetic art that it impresses me that anyone can overlook this show's underrated glory. Maybe it is because it is presented as a shitty harem anime, which it is, mind you, that most will overlook the show's positive traits. As if the previous arcs weren't impressive enough, aside from Natsume's, of course, the ultimate culmination of all of the previous arcs come to a head in the final episode of the season. What happens is that Shido, as a result of absorbing too much spirit energy, he ends up feverish, sick, and physically overloaded, as his body is not that of a spirit. So naturally, he could only withstand only so much spirit energy before his body falls apart. Only, there's a slight problem with that. Instead, Shido goes full-on god-tier level of seduction. His harem god spirit form is so ludicrous that he can transform city environments to have white fucking sakura flower trees. Sorry if I get the name of the flowers wrong, but you get the point. He becomes so absurdly confident, so good at what he does, and acts too much like a badass man that it made me wonder for about a second and a half as to whether I'm actually watching Date Alive, rather than some form of sugar-induced coma, by drinking too much Mountain Dew. That's how trippy, yet wide of a dichotomy there is of Shido's personalities. It used to be that he needed everyone in the Fractionist to give him advice and tips. So it makes this entire episode so gratifying when the shoe is on the other foot. He's all of a sudden exuberating obscene amounts of "come here and get me, ladies," dragon energy that it made me go ballistic and start singing Little John when my best mate and I watched the final episode. Yes, that was actually my legitimate reaction to a certain portion of the episode. And yes, my best mate thought I lost my mind utterly and entirely. Well, that's what happens when you deal with heavy real life shit in the background. You lose your marbles and then celebrate when a bitch becomes a man. And one so good, he gets to be the one who gets the honor of being pursued by cute waifus and or daughteros. Don't think there's a single anime out there that has a more satisfying ending episode that falls under a similar subgenre of anime. Last Exile had a final episode payoff that was god tier, but I can't really compare the two since it would be apples to oranges. I don't think there was a more satisfying payoff in either ecchi, comedy, or any of the other categories Data Life falls under, albeit, actually I'm gonna be honest, I watched Gintama's last episode the other day, so It is one of the best payoffs in my own recent memory, and quite frankly, I'm glad I got to experience it. While I didn't enjoy much of Natsume's arc, because of fucking course we have to have extremely shallow sex characters or lolly overlaps, I did enjoy some of it, and it helped pay off a bit to a much more interesting arc. I wholeheartedly believe Natsume's arc was a good way to introduce a new character, and quite honestly she makes a fun small member of the supporting cast, pun intended. I'll give the Natsume arc 1 point, because there's this one really awesome line in regards to Yoshinon x Natsume, where Natsume is like, I must marry this girl. And I legitimately raffle-coptered when the moment happened. Without Natsume, it wouldn't have happened, and even if you were to substitute any other character, I doubt it would have as much of an effect because there's a subconscious dissonance between having a mental pairing between two entities of differing maturity levels. However, you don't blink for a second if it were Natsume in her lolly form saying such a thing. It holds comedic weight because it is one individual of equal stature. Recognize that there might be a subconscious trait of their own self that might draw others towards themselves. In other words, Natsume subconsciously grows and accepts Yoshinon vicariously as something she'd want to marry. Through acceptance of Yoshinon, she grows as a character. Yet because it all connects and does so in an instant, we laugh because it is believable. It is believable that Natsume might want to marry Yoshinon. Amazing it is to use shipping as a joke instead of Tumblr bait. Anywho, the main focus of these arcs are Shido, Toka, Kurumi, Origami, and Natsume. Particularly focused on within the Origami arc is Shido, Origami, and Kurumi. I've already explained Origami and how her quest for vengeance culminates in absurd poetic irony, so we'll move on to Shido's role next. His role here is pretty generic, but quite frankly he played his role well. Albeit when I mean well, I mean to the most of his position as a character, aka basic things like agency, initiative, and perseverance. So with that out of the way, what I like about this arc the most, i.e. the Origami arc, is Kurumi. Kurumi as a whole is the most interesting part of this arc. There's an underlying theme and subtext here about time, and whether one can change events for the better, which is foreshadowed by Kurumi, as well as Kurumi's Yod-Bet, which is basically a fuck-off bullet that warps reality as a whole. Pretty typical Kurumi things. Why is it reality warping, you ask? Well, it is reality warping because it allows the main character and or other characters as well to fully react with the rest of the world in the past as if it were normal. If you spend a little too much time on fiction like me, you might forget why this is an important detail. When writing or critiquing series with a time basis, one is supposed to know to write time travel dynamics as minimalistic in regards to involvement and influence as absolutely possible. to try and have the main character completely break a world line is a little bit stupid in regards to how busted and reality warping Yod-Bet is. Generally, the butterfly effect is invoked here as a means to discourage actual time alterations. Yet, the fact that he can is a ludicrous idea and violates a major rule of storytelling in regards to time travel. Don't fuck with shit if you don't know the consequences, and yes, I know Steins Gate exists. Shido has the ability to fully interact with the past as he sees fit. The first time Yod-Bet is used, Origami went to fight Phantom, with her assuming Phantom was responsible for her parents' death. Yet the poetic irony, as I probably abused the term by now to describe it, is that she's actually the one behind it all. The second time Yod-Bet was used by present worldline Kurumi to send Shido to the past to find out what happened. When Shido finds out, he is rightfully angry he couldn't do anything about it. So inevitably, Shido goes to meet Lolly Kurumi to get yet another Deus Ex Yod-Bet to fuck off the concept of time travel, while also giving a middle finger to the concept of pulling a Kurt Cobain, and this time, bringing Shido to an alternate timeline that is similar. Where things get a bit ludicrous is the fact that, in this second time travel, Shido proves himself adept enough in the situation to change his appearance from a teenager to a Shota. Just let that sink in for a while. He goes and prevents Origami's parents from dying for like a year. Even more, he may have made things worse or better. It isn't really clear and is up to interpretation. On one end, Origami's parents are around to give her a little bit more of family time, but on the other hand, like an utter knob, he gets himself laser fired by laser, and has the dumbest face of satisfaction in the process. If this wasn't supposed to be a dramatic moment, this would be 10 out of 10 comedy IGN. He ends up waking up in the timeline he single-handedly created while giving a middle finger to the other world line he killed, by him getting killed, so that Origami's parents don't get killed, who gets killed anyways, inevitably erasing everybody in the previous world line he ended, and inevitably incurred more losses than gains. The definition of insanity, folks. I feel like Cube is writing shows like these because holy fuck, the entropy is real here. The absolute, legendary Mad Lad. Shido inevitably created a new world line, but here's a proposition of an idea for you. A question, if you will. Even though he incurred more losses, destroyed and lost more than he gained, did he make a worse world? I personally don't think so. I think he made the right call. Origami was going to go full autist devil anyways, and Shido's a much better sacrifice. If you consider that perhaps Origami is no longer technically trapped in an endless void of vengeance that would consume her and actually finds love in her heart, that it makes one contemplate. Do the lives of each person matter, or only a special few? It is the quality versus quantity argument, but distorted. I would think that Shido's sacrifice, and I use that term tentatively, has inevitably led to a better world. Let's circle back to briefly address Kurumi for one moment, because this entire spiel about Shido's involvement in altering world lines is the undercurrent mentioned earlier. Kurumi is searching for an answer. The intriguing question is, why is she searching for an answer? This question was left out in the open in the anime, so I would personally not know, because I don't think actually, that there was an English release for the visual novels, or at least not yet. I can't wait for the new Data Live game in June, by the way. Anywho, back on topic. There's this intrigue behind Kurumi, So, if she weren't sexy and fascinating enough, there's this ravenous and emotional drive that keeps her moving forward. An idea I'm all too familiar with and can empathize with. A lot of personal significance came into play here as well for me. All of those previously mentioned aspects help really set the table for making Origami's utterly compelling arc. Switching to the final gear of this review, aka episode 12 of Date Alive, I must say this. Tonal shifts are difficult to pull off without the viewer tuning out to tonal clash in a singular episode. Strangely enough, the constant change and shifts in scenery and attire were pretty well handled. I mean, most of the show had maybe a slight change to the environment once in a while. Often, infrequently, whereas the final episode was switching gears multiple times. Multiple clothing design and theme changes, and a strangely gratifying payoff after everything is said and done. After everything is said and done, while I have some small gripes that doesn't make it a full 10, it is great enough, paid off well, and aside from maybe Natsume's arc, the pacing is perfect. It is fascinating to find a harem show to be anime of the season. I was nowhere near as impressed with any other anime as I was with Date Alive Season 3, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was unexpected. I give this show a 9.25 out of 10, an A-, which is more than I had expected to give. An underrated, phenomenal show that had a lot of surprises, twists, and downright entertaining storytelling. Even if the Yod Bet is busted and dimension-breaking as fuck, I would definitely recommend this season. But I am conflicted, because there are some parts to some seasons I'm not really a fan of. Albeit, I don't expect to make that many Date Alive themed reviews. My goal is pretty much this one, and for the one being released in June. The only exception being is if you guys want more, which then I'd have to import stuff and then make reviews for it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. I really do suggest, by the way, that you guys donate to my Streamlabs. I want to make a living on this, and because YouTube is run by basically a group of monkeys, and Susumu Shiki, there's clearly no chance in hell I'm going to make money in the most traditional fashion. And I don't like Patreon, so it would be greatly appreciated if you donated to my Streamlabs down in the description below. Thank you all for watching. I have been One Man, the world's best butch lesbian, the only true adult metal Anituber, and the queen of sleaze. You have been my wonderful viewers, and those were my thoughts on Date Alive Season 3. See you next time.